All right, welcome to our lesson on working with matrices. We're going to split it up into 3 different videos. We're going to talk about learning the basic matrix operations, and that's add, subtract, multiply, divide. Learn about the identity and inverse matrices, and then solve systems of equations. All right, when we look at these basic operations, we talk about multiplication in 2 ways. One's a little more complicated. The scalar multiplication is going to be just multiplying a single value, not an entire matrix, by another matrix. And we'll look at that one first. Addition and subtraction, that's going to involve identifying elements in each matrix and then adding or subtracting. And then matrix multiplication it's going to involve making sure that we can multiply as well as how to multiply. And then division actually doesn't occur, we just do the inverse. So if you think about division as multiplying by the reciprocal, that's essentially what we do there. All right. So to get started, if we multiply 2 times every value in matrix A, we'd simply multiply like the distributive property, 2 times each element. And this is valuable to do at times. We want to be able to know how to do it correctly. A 2 by 2 matrix, it's got to be added or subtracted by another 2 by 2. So adding and subtracting requires identical dimensions. And in this case, we have a 2 by 2. So to get our values, 10 minus 1.1, 8.9. 5 minus negative 0.5 is 5 plus 0.5. 20 minus negative 2 would be 22. And 11 minus 1 would be 10. So we just take each element and do the operation add or subtract. And now when we look at matrix multiplication, not scalar multiplication, it's a little more involved. We have to identify the dimensions of each matrix, make sure that the columns of the first match up with the row of the second, and our result will be the outside numbers, the rows of the first, columns of the second. So we'll end up with a 2 by 2 matrix when we multiply A times B. And in order to get each element, we really need to understand that only the rows of the first and only the columns of the second come into play. We want to match up rows of first times columns of second. So in this case, if I wanted the first row, first column element, I multiply the first row times the second column, and I work my way across and down simultaneously. So in this case, 10 times 1.1, that gives us 11. And then add 5 times negative 2, negative 10. That's first row times first column. Similarly, if I go first row times second column, it'll be 10 times negative 0.5, that's a negative 5, plus 5 times 1, that's 5. And I'll continue with this process for the last 2, and then we should be good to go. All right. I get 20 times 1.1, that's 22, plus 11 times negative 2, negative 22. Make sure you simultaneously move across and down. And then 20 times negative 0.5 is negative 10. 11 times 1 is 11. When I add those values, I get 11 minus 10 is 1. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 22 minus 22 is 0. Negative 10 plus 11 is 1. And we get the identity matrix. Finally, multiplying by the reciprocal, we'll do that on the graphing calculator. See that later in another lesson.